All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're taking a close look at a company you might not hear about every day, but one that is absolutely fundamental to the way our world works: Fuji Electric. We're going to break it down from a value investor's point of view, and all this analysis comes straight from the great work done over at insightfulvalue.com. So, here's the big question right off the bat. In a world that's just obsessed with flashy startups and constant disruption, how does a company that's been around for a whole century stay on top of its game? What's their secret sauce? Well, it all comes down to a really fascinating story of adaptation, incredible stability, and just plain old enduring value. And to really get a grip on that story, we first have to deconstruct what Fuji Electric actually does. This isn't a simple company, it's kind of sprawling. So the best way to understand it is to break it down piece by piece. And its history is honestly pretty remarkable. I mean, it was founded way back in 1923. It was a huge player in rebuilding Japan's entire industrial base after World War II. Then, in the 80s, it made this super smart pivot into semiconductors, which basically set the stage for everything it is today, a global powerhouse in energy tech. This is a company that has evolved with real purpose. Now, if you look at where their money comes from, you can see the diversity right away. Yeah, power electronics is the biggest slice of the pie, but it's really well balanced by these other major divisions. This is not a one-trick pony, and that diversification, that's a huge reason for its stability. But what do these business segments actually do in the real world? Let me put it this way. Their power electronics, that's the guts, the essential bits and pieces managing electricity and everything from your EV to the massive data centers that run the cloud. Their power and new energy segment builds huge infrastructure projects like geothermal power plants. The semiconductors they make aren't like the ones in your phone. They're the heavy-duty workhorses for cars and factories. And yep, they even make those crazy advanced vending machines you see all over Japan. They're literally everywhere. Okay, so knowing what they do is step one, but for a value investor, the next question is the big one. What protects them? What keeps the competition from eating their lunch? And this brings us to a really core concept in investing, the economic moat. I mean, think about it. In every single one of those businesses, there are fierce competitors, sharks in the water. So what on earth allows a company to not just play the game, but to protect its profits and its market share for decades to come? The answer is this idea of an economic moat. The term was made famous by Warren Buffett. Just picture a castle, right? The moat is the big ditch of water that keeps invaders out. In business, it's the competitive advantage or advantages that keep rivals away, allowing a company to have a durable, profitable business for a long, long time. So what does Fuji Electric's moat look like? Well, it's not just one thing. First, you've got decades of deep technological expertise in really complex stuff, like high-efficiency power semiconductors. You can't just copy that overnight. Second, there are high switching costs. Once their components are designed into a Toyota or a power grid, you can't just easily swap them out for a cheaper one. And finally, you have a 100-year-old reputation for being rock-solid reliable. When you're building critical infrastructure, you go with the name you trust. Now, you absolutely cannot talk about a tech-adjacent company today without addressing the elephant in the room: artificial intelligence. So is it a massive threat that's going to disrupt this century-old giant? Or is it maybe the single biggest opportunity in its entire history? And this really shows you the two sides of that coin. On the one hand, sure, AI could lead to new, faster competitors. It's a risk. But just look at the other side. AI runs on massive data centers, and those data centers consume an unbelievable amount of electricity. And what is Fuji Electric's absolute core specialty? Managing power efficiently. Their components aren't just nice to have for AI, they are essential. They are selling the picks and shovels in the middle of a gold rush. So, when you pull all these threads together, what's the final verdict from the analysis over at insightfulvalue.com? How should a smart investor think about this complex, powerful, century-old company? It really comes down to these four pillars. You've got proven stability from a business model that has survived world wars and global recessions. You've got that deep, multi-layered moat protecting it. It's also perfectly positioned to be a key supplier for the two biggest trends of our lifetime: AI and the green energy transition. The only catch? It's complexity. Because it does so much, the market can sometimes struggle to see the forest for the trees and appreciate its true value. And, of course, we have to include this quick but very important note. The analysis we've walked through today is sourced from the research done by insightfulvalue.com. It's really for informational purposes, to help you understand the moving parts of the company, and it should not be considered financial advice. So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. In a market that's always chasing the next flashy, hyped up thing, what's the real lasting value of a company like this? A company that doesn't chase trends, but instead quietly and reliably builds the very foundation that all those trends run on. That's something we're thinking about. Thanks for tuning in.